And so Vernon called in the middle of those hate calls. And you know his voice, he kind of has this rough and gruff voice, and I thought it was a hate call. And then he said, "I've heard about you." Someone in the community had put together all of the hateful media clippings and sent it to him. And he says, "I've been looking at this. I've been hearing about your stand there." And he says, "I want you to know that people like you are what the American Indian movement is all about." And he says, "What can I do to help you?" And of course, I was very shy. I didn't know what to do exactly. I was like kind of hunkering in. And he says, "You know what? Someone owes me, I think, a train ticket." He says, "I'm coming. And so I want you to organize a press conference and a couple of speaking gigs on campus, and we'll see what we can kind of mix up over there." And I didn't even know how to put together a press conference. And I hyperventilated if there was more than 10 people in the room. And so Vernon did come at his own expense on a train. 13 hours on the train, and came and he stood with me. And it was magic. It was incredibly magic. And part of the lessons of Vernon is that I know that we don't do this work alone. We don't. When we're standing there alone and we appear to be alone, we know that the ancestors do their work through us. And when we call upon their names, they are standing with us. And Vernon is now making that journey to stand with the ancestors. And we can call upon him to stand with us. And so we were magic together. You know, we really, the University of Illinois was never the same after that day that Vernon came to campus. But he lifted me up, because he made me get up there and talk. And he used to give me these really big, long, really, introductions. And I'm going like, oh, God. Because it was really hard for me. Really hard for me to speak, but he lifted me, and he made me, speak. But he was there as ally. And there was another man who came to our campus, and I want to acknowledge him because he's a good friend of Wabunanini. Kwame Ture came to campus. Within the first few months of the struggle at the University of Illinois, and we've heard his name today as well. Kwame came to campus, and he understood, like Vernon, that the role of the leaders to groom new leadership. And so he asked to meet with student leaders on that campus. And at the front of the table, Kwame was in his African regalia, and he was very charismatic. And he asked, and I was invited to that meeting. And I was hyperventilating really, really badly. And everybody was introducing themselves around the table, and they were all so powerful, and I was hyperventilating really bad. And when you hyperventilate, I don't know if you hyperventilate, I sometimes still do. When you hyperventilate, you have to remember to breathe and talk at the same time, right? I usually would forget the breathing part, and eventually you run out of air. And so when it came around to my turn to introduce myself, I said in a very small voice, "My name is Charlene Teters." And he turned to me and he goes, "I know you. I have heard all about you. My friend Wabunanini has told me about you." And then he turned to the people who brought him in. And he says, "I want you to give the sister 10 minutes of my time." And he was one of those speakers that attracted, he was very charismatic. There was thousands of people who came to see Kwame that day, that evening. And so, you know, the air goes in, doesn't come back out for a while because I'm so terrified. But he did the right thing like Vernon, that it was for me to speak, for me to go out there and address this issue the best I could. And it was their place to stand next to me and support me. And so that evening I did speak, and then Kwame came up behind me after I talked. And I did get through my 10 minutes without passing out. But Kwame came up behind me, and he started talking about how our struggles are linked. And he's addressing his community, and he says, if this is an issue for Native people, this is an issue for you. Even if there were no Native people on this campus, there was no reason to stand back and let their culture be degraded, he said. And if you consider yourself an anti-racist, then this is your issue too. So it was a very powerful day. It was really because of Vernon and his good friend Kwame Ture that the issue had really gained a great deal of national attention and momentum. These were my mentors, Vernon and Kwame Ture, and Michael Haney, and Clyde came to our campus. You know, I had the benefit of these wonderful teachers. And Vernon worked so hard every day, even when he was in a wheelchair, worked so hard because he had such a strong and powerful love for his people. And he worked so hard because he knew that it was our job, those of us here today, to work hard so we don't pass these things on to the next generation. That's why they work so hard. And he had a deep love for his family and his children and his brother and sister and Janice. He had a deep love for his people. That's why he worked so hard. So I had the benefit of a wonderful mentor, and I will call upon him as I continue to do this work in the spirit of Vernon Bellecourt, in the spirit of Wabunanini. We continue to do this work and work every day so that we don't pass it on to the next generation. And I'm going to close with that. The greeting my mother would say, what's in your heart? What's in your heart? Stamas bu'us. Vernon is in my heart. Thank you.
One of the things that she didn't mention, that you all should know, is there is no more Chief Alinowik.